Hi, Desra.
I was on mute. I said, "Hi, Kevin. What are you doing at home?"
Well, I've been sick all week, which has been really fun.
Oh no.
I actually feel pretty good right now, but
Yeah.
I had a scratchy throat this whole week, so
Oh, that's the
I have
worst.
to talk through TTAC and stuff. So on the off chance I go through TTAC and realize my body withers away, I won't
Oh
be able to stop.
no. Well, I hope you feel better soon. That sucks.
No,
And
thank you.
give me a second and I'll get you joined. I'm just trying to get the conference room joined.
Why are you having issues?
I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, I'll record.
And I can do the same thing. I can still control the slides and everything from here. So
Okay, I'm gonna put myself on mute for a second, Kev.
okay.
Have to do.
No, I didn't think here.
In progress.
Yeah, you gotta have to call. The vape thing is interesting now, so that will be live this.
Or you have 5.
Okay. Call the TTAC meeting to order, April 2nd. Work order of business, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Second order is a roll call. Ray Rosinski, City of Bristol.
Online, you have Philip Straker from Cheshire. Here is Matthew Abbott from DOT. Matthew Tarnowski from Southbury is on the line. And Jerry Lukowski, Watertown, in the room.
Okay. A public comment, anybody from the general public for a comment? Not approval of the meeting minutes, or the meeting minutes to be approved, recommend, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 5th?
I'll motion it.
Is there a second? I think Southbury's on the call. Southbury or Cheshire?
Yeah, I'll second that. Sorry. I had to find you.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Transportation planning, lots of, item 1, cost changes, Beacon Valley Road. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Apologies, I can't be there in person today. I'm currently under the weather and getting over a little cold. But so this is a lots of cost change for Beacon Valley Road. There's an overage in this project. You can see on the screen of about $36,000. So during construction, we were approached by the designer and the construction firm about stabilizing the slope on between Beacon Valley Road and the Beacon Valley Brook. Given the increases in rainfall throughout the past couple of years, they were concerned that one major storm could happen and the whole entire road could wash away. They asked for an overage at that time, additional funding, but we had discussions with the DOT. First, we deemed that A, this was something that we wanted to get included in the project, and B, we discussed with DOT, and DOT determined that they should use contingency funds, and then if there were any overages, come back later and then get those approved. Well, it is now later. They had an overage of $36,000, mainly due to the slope stabilization between the road and the brook. So that is the thing we have in front of us right now. So there is a motion to recommend the approval of the allocation of additional lots of funds for these construction overages. And of course, I'll take any questions.
I guess as point of order, we still, function with, members as far as making motions and, processing them, but we don't have a quorum. But at least that would get reported to the full board. So is there a Any questions or is there a motion to approve? Watertown? I'll motion it. Is there a second?
Second.
There's motion and second. Any questions? Not approved? Thank you. Item number 2, new project, complete streets improvements, South Main Street and North Main Street.
Yes, so this is a new Loxer project. These pieces are broken up from a Loxer project that's currently under construction right now in downtown Waterbury, Exchange Place Phase 2, which is replacing Bank Street, going from I-84 all the way up to the Green and along South Main near the Green. This is broken out to be a third piece of the project. There's a couple more pieces they wanted added during design, so this got separated out. So essentially, there's will be more complete streets improvements heading into downtown Waterbury. You're looking at streetscape improvements along South Main Street between Grand Street and Scoville Street, as well as North Main Street between Phoenix Avenue and the northern leg of West Main Street at the Green. So there's a recommended motion to recommend allocation of lots of funds for this new project, and of course, I'll take any questions.
I guess just a point of clarification, and maybe it was just because it's a phased project. You said it's under construction, but it's new. I believe you must have been referring to other phases that are under construction.
Right.
And
Yes.
this would be new.
Yes, basically, the city of Waterbury had come up with really comprehensive improvements in downtown along East Main Street, which has been completed. And then they wanted to do along Bank Street and South Main. And at that time, when they were doing the plans, these two sections were not really well defined on how they wanted to do it. And we advised them at that time to sort of break them out, take their time to do the design, do them right. So they are going ahead with the South Main Street part now. This will complete the actions that were sort of split off of the original South Main Street part, because they really weren't fully designed at that time. So yes, these sections aren't under design, but that South Main Street is.
And so approval, this is a question, approval of this in effect initiates this project, and these are my words, puts the project like in the queue. Probably wouldn't get built unless it's already designed for a while.
Some design has been initiated, because these sections were part of the original design. Additional design is required, but yeah, they are further along on the design than a lot of new projects that first get initiated. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but we keep track of the financial plan. This can be fit into the program. We've always operated sort of as, whenever a project is ready to go, it goes. If money is available and it doesn't cause a delay to anything else, it can go. So it will go, it can't fit into the program, and it will be built when it's ready to be.
And that's really the basis of my question. Just hypothetically, if there's a community on the northern end of the region that has a project already in the queue and bids get open and it's $500,000, over. For any project, after it doesn't, impact, other things may have impacted, there may not be money, there at the time, in which case that project would have to wait, but.
Right now, we're still not projecting to have that kind of an issue for another, I think, 2 years, 7. Because, we don't want to have that happen where this is a municipality in the northern end of the region that has a project ready to go. That doesn't, we won't delay that one if this one's ready to go. And
Yeah.
No, we haven't hit that point yet. We're heading toward it. But until that time, we're still operating with, the project is ready to complete its design, it can go out. And again, this can be put into the program. And again, we do notify all project sponsors when a new project is coming in now, that it's going to be put at let's say at the end of the queue.
Yeah.
But that's what we tell them, that it could be a couple of years before construction can't proceed because of the funding situation. So they are notified that it could be, not go to construction right away, but we're hopeful that we will continue having enough money over the for the next 2 years.
And then, with respect to, and obviously I only speak as one, member, but I believe there's even, a guidance document from, NVCOG, like, in my mind, obviously, like roadway safety projects, have the, highest, priority, followed potentially by, sidewalks. I would say, complete street projects are, on the priority, or fairly far down. In all fairness, it's higher than like bridge projects in general. Lots of, decision is made not to, use lots of funds for bridge projects, other than ones that are still in the queue. So Bristol still has one, but that's that wouldn't happen today, and we recognize that. So, but to that end, we take projects as they come, and this project is in the queue, so I personally do support it. Is there any other comments or?
No, I think it's a great discussion, for me, I can't say I'm new, but, anymore. But just to understand the process and the queuing. And, the ones that are designed, are great to get out the bid to keep the funding flowing into the program.
And again, we did this, concept has been going on since 2014. It's now 11 years old. And our approach from day one was always to be aggressive, solicit projects whenever. And, because we want to keep the money flowing, we don't want to have, and we've been successful with that. If you look at the charts, our region has actually obligated, the highest percentage of any other cog in the state, their money. And so we've been going on 11 years and we haven't had a financial crisis yet.
Yeah.
So we've been able to just do it, keep those projects going, and when they're ready to go with construction, they get out. And what this discussion is that, no, we're heading to that point where we may have to make some tougher decisions. We're not there yet. We did look at what to do with that, becomes the case, what becomes a priority, how we can handle it. And that's sort of been in discussion with TTAC for a few months ago, a few meetings ago. We came up with some guidelines on how we would handle that.
And LoSiP, is it pure state funds or is federal funds into the state?
Lots of,
Yeah.
it's just 100% state.
Okay.
It's municipalities do the design, and then the state provides 100% of the dollars. And unlike some of the other state programs, which again is a very unique feature of lots of, you get money based on what the bid price is, not some grant request. Like community connectivity, you put in a request for, $500,000, and then when you go out to bid, it's 800,000. They expect you to come up with the other three. So no, this is, so it really benefits our communities to be aggressive, go out, get projects. Because again, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I've never had a problem where, we run out of money. Projects get delayed, things change, more funding comes in. So, like I said, financial planning, we're getting close in 2027 to be a little bit more worried.
And does the state put in any training programs to understand this program? Or you kind of T2 maybe?
No, we can provide any training that you need. We've been doing this for 11 years now. So we're as experienced and knowledgeable about the program than anybody. So, I mean, again, if you want to have a little bit more training on what the program is all about,
And especially,
we'll set up something and, go through it. Just, again, it's our program. We know all the ins and outs, so we can provide.
I know we could always go online and research it too. So.
Right, but, again, just call us. Kevin, myself, Rich, we're all, we can give you any, direction under lots of,
Great.
what's sort of allowed, what's not allowed, things like that, where we're trying to, like Ray mentioned earlier, safety is one of our highest priorities. Bridge money is less because there are other programs you can use to fund bridge projects, and so unless there's a special circumstance, we try to reserve lots that for, you know, safety improvements and road improvements, things like that.
The, I don't wanna get off topic, it's probably the most important thing, biggest thing I've learned with, you know, lots of, and maybe it's just, you know, us in Bristol. They take a long time to, go, you know, from beginning to, you know, to end, even get to the point of going out to bid. I believe, and maybe it's just a matter of timing when we started our projects. But, you know, we have multiple consultants working on lots of projects. They all have struggled, you know, to work through the, not NVCOG, but work through the DOT process, you know, and to a certain extent, I've underestimated, you know, the time. Maybe it's, you know, an expedited process relative to the, you know, traditional, you know, DOT project, but expedited and lots of them go together, you know, in Bristol. It takes, you know, a long time. And I don't really have sympathy for it, but I do understand our consultants complaining. Based on their price, they dramatically underestimated the level of effort it takes in order to, you know, design and get a lots of project approved, you know, they, you know.
I will say it's faster than federal aid.
So there is is there a motion to come forth on item transportation planning 2, a complete street improvement south, you know, Main Street and North Main Street?
I think,
Oh,
Paul, you already made a motion on it, didn't you? Oh, okay.
No, not this one.
Not this one, okay, all
They don't, my name will be on all of them.
right.
Motion it.
is there a second? I see we have new people. Yeah, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Change, Lake Road sidewalks.
Yes, so this is a lots of project that's been ongoing for a little while now, and we're reaching the final stage of this project, and there is a cost change to it. There hasn't the big changes to this project is that they have an unanticipated signal upgrades that were required on Wolcott Road. This is a southern project going from North Main Street along the northern side of Lakewood Road all the way down to Wolcott Road. So these signal upgrades need to be done for pedestrian buttons and things related to that nature as required by District 4. And there's also safety improvements that need to be done around Great Brook Reservoir. The sidewalk does pass next to the reservoir, so additional safety protections are required for both pedestrians and vehicles. I believe the new price is around $3.2 million, and that was an increase from around $2 million. So there's a recommended motion to approve the additional allocation of funds for this project, and I'll take any questions.
And once again, the timing of the actual expenditures, what's NVCOG looking at?
We're hoping to get this design done and start to get constructed by the end of this year, I'd say.
This is a project that's been, I think this is one of the original, lots of projects, so it's actually been on the books for, you know, quite a bit. So they've been working on the design, for a long time. Well, I talked about Lakewood Road, sidewalks.
Sorry, I'm late. Okay, is there any questions or a motion to approve?
What was the cost changes?
I believe it went from like a $2 million job to like a $3.2 million job.
And it's fully designed?
It's basically there. I'm doing the kind of the final design review right now, currently on our end, and then needs to go up to a DOT, the Lots unit at Newington.
Okay.
There's a motion.
I'll motion it.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I was gonna abstain, but yes.
A motion and second. All in favor? Aye. I want to think mostly get for at least making a motion. Next item, USDOT discretionary grant projects, safe streets for all.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as a region committed to eliminating serious injuries and deaths on our roadways with our Vision Zero plan, it is imperative that the region understand the safety issues that exist and actively plan for improvement. So this study, which will be undertaken with a grant awarded through the USDOT's Safe Streets and Roads for All program, will do just that using crash data, vulnerable roadway user exposure, and traffic volumes to identify the highest risk in the transportation network in the Naugatuck Valley, then develop concepts to mitigate these areas. So we will be doing this in-house, and I know if Mark, if you have anything you'd like to add, otherwise this is something we will start looking at soon to kick off.
Yeah, originally we were thinking about hiring a consultant to do it. But we decided to try to do it in-house because we figured we could actually do more and be a little bit more responsive to our community's needs. We did a regional safety plan a few years ago. It was done by a consultant that was hired by DOT. And so we're gonna be using that as the baseline and then going forward through that. But again, the idea really is to do really expand the previous work and come up with very specific actions that are required in each of the communities. We're gonna be looking at systemic improvements as well. You know, right now, most times safety dollars is spent on fixing an intersection. Spend all your money just on this one location. What we'd like to do is look at, you know, do we want to spend money on putting center line rumble strips as a safety action? RRFBs that, you know, crosswalks that really needed, you know, create some kinds of programs like that that could be sort of implemented for the region, not just, you know, one specific location. So we're still waiting from Federal Highway for the authorization to proceed. We do have a signed executed agreement with the USDOT. So we're just waiting for that authorization to proceed and we'll get started. And again, we'll, like in a lot of these types of studies, we're gonna be asking members of each of the towns to help, you know, serve on a project advisory committee, do, you know, be our second set of eyes on anything we put together. We also want to work closely with police departments. So it's gonna be, we're gonna be relying on, you know, members as well to get those contacts so we can, you know, work with local police as well.
This grant through the state, the federal Safe Streets for All program.
Yeah, federal safe streets law.
You want to touch on the fact that just opened up another grant round?
I hadn't seen that yet, but I guess they just released another NOFA for funding for Churches for All funding. I don't know the particulars, but it's probably similar to past requests or solicitations.
I think I can,
What part?
yeah.
Excuse me.
I just pulling it up briefly, I know that the deadline for application is June 26th.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can apply for planning and demonstration grants or implementation grants.
And one of the requirements for applying for implementation is that it has to be related to a safety plan. We have one set up that meets the requirements of the federal program. So communities can't apply for, you know, implementation dollars because they can then, you know, reference our regional plan as a compliant plan that, you know, makes you eligible for requesting implementation dollars.
Yeah, City Waterbury applied for one last year. We weren't accepted.
Yeah.
We got an extensive debriefing from the DOT about why they did not accept it, which contained a lot of information, which was a surprise to us. So if anybody's talking about applying on their own, we'd be happy to provide that information to you to assist in preparing your own grant and increase your likelihood.
Are you gonna try to apply for the same project again this year, or?
We're gonna apply, but we're not sure. We haven't sat down and discussed the actual parameters yet.
And you know, our standard offer of help, you know, is, you know, again, we're more than willing to help any of the towns that are interested in applying for implementation. We'll help you collect data, do, some, analysis or whatever is needed, our staff is available for, providing assistance to any of the towns.
COG did I thought they did a phenomenal job in helping us last year.
And what's that difference between, safe streets and complete streets?
Well, Safe Streets is a federal program.
Okay.
A discretionary program. I forget what the dollar amounts are available. I want to say something like $5 billion available nationwide. But it's a discretionary program where you're in competition with everybody else throughout the country. But it's, you apply for it, and then they'll give you 80% of the money to, do whatever it is you want to do. The program is looking at corridor solutions, not, they're trying to shy away from like that, an individual intersection that, gets rebuilt. They want to have you look at, if there's a safety issue along the corridor that you can address with these funds. When you look at actually what projects got approved, that wasn't quite the case. But that is something that they sort of are emphasizing, the corridor improvements as opposed to, straight intersections. But you got to demonstrate that there's a safety issue. That's where the data from Yukon repository is great information. But like I said, we're available to help.
And complete streets is more of a state program?
Well, Complete Streets is just referencing any kind of a project that looks at the entire streetscape to improve safety for all travelers, not just for road users. It's not a specific program per se, it's more of a policy or
I'd say it's like a philosophy.
philosophy is a good word, yeah.
It's really the transition of recognizing that, streets. Just for vehicles, it's for. All modes of transportation.
And that's why when you look at Complete Streets, it's, a lot of it is looking at the sidewalks, curb extension, a whole list of things, not just, having 4 lanes and 8-foot shoulders.
I guess I don't want to get off topic but honestly, maybe, and I'm sure it's been on agenda items before, maybe a future agenda item, we can have complete streets. Honestly, one of the things that we struggle with, in Bristol is that we have looked at a couple of times changing our, it's updating and changing our city street ordinance. It really sets our, route, design criteria to, update it, but also incorporate, complete streets. So even like sample ordinances or roadway standards that incorporate complete streets, that would be helpful for us. And so I assume potentially other communities, if you can either, or make some examples or
That's a good
add it
segue,
to the next, agenda, item, next meeting agenda.
Because actually, that we can definitely do that. But as part of our active transportation plan, we're putting together a complete streets policy for the region. So that's in the works, where we're coming up with, defining what complete streets is, what that sort of means. Coyote has worked on a complete streets sort of guidelines for the city of WQ, right? Complete streets Waterbury? Or is that Kevin? But we've done some work in Waterbury about, coming up with guidelines for complete streets and things like that. So it'd be a good thing we can add to the agenda, and we have a lot of stuff already put together. So like I said, we are putting together a regional policy.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Everybody's just COG is in the process of doing 2 roadway safety audits for the city. As a result of fatalities, possibly request that they do a presentation to this board, what kind of lesson learned, what we can get out of it, and some of the things that we can carry over the other community with similar situations.
Okay, any other discussion on safe streets? If not, the next item is protect Mark.
Yeah, just quick, I might take protect and raise at the same time then, because the situation is pretty much the same. These are two discretionary, grant awards that the NVCOG, received from USDOT. Both are on hold pending further review by USDOT on, grant, continuing with the funding. So both projects are somewhat delayed. Protect, we have a executed agreement that's down in Washington to be, signed and sent back. We don't know when that's gonna be brought back. Again, my last conversation with Federal Highways, it's being reviewed, and the scope is being looked at and, language being checked. Raise, we're going ahead with the consultant selection process. But we haven't heard really much on whether, that project is going to proceed or not. It's, again, we have an agreement in place with USDOT, but it hasn't been executed in any way, so, we're just not sure when the fund is gonna be released, and we're gonna get the, authorization to proceed. But we are looking to, select a consultant. Who's that way, if, when we do get authorization, we'll be all set to execute an agreement with a consultant and get the project started. But right now, they're on hold and we don't know when, they're gonna proceed.
Any questions or comments? If not, United Planar Work Program, Kate?
So, we put together our UPWP and we've submitted it to CTDOT and to the federal DOT, highways and transit. It's our work plan for 2 years, starting at the start of the fiscal year, which will be July 1. And it includes everything that we plan to do that receives federal funding. It was a very comprehensive process. I think a lot of folks helped develop the tasks associated with it and the subtasks, which I appreciate, and thanks for your contributions. We will be hearing back comments by the end of this month. And then we will incorporate them to then run by the full board at our May board meeting. I think there were some things we had to remove due to the current federal like an administration, but we looked through it and I think we put it together a nice plan for the next 2 years. I could take any questions if you have them.
I guess it's a big question. That certainly isn't gonna be. I assume, and it's even come up in the context of this meeting, like, is that federal funds, is there state funds? But obviously, there's specific federal funds that obviously are through, I assume through legislation. If that money went away, it's not even a given that existing state programs would maintain their current status, because potentially things will be reprioritized to fill the gaps with state funding.
And one thing I would say that there are two federal funding flows from two sources. One is discretionary, and then other funding that's legislative. And the UPWP is funded through legislation, adopted by Congress. And that money is in place. That can't be just sort of arbitrarily sort of removed or, this be obligated. So, our guidance from our contact with Federal Highways, that things from the UPWP, they can authorize and sign off on it. So that money is going to be provided and is available. So that is an issue. Similarly, formula programs for most of our road projects, interstate, surface transportation project, our bus funding, things like that, and rail funding. Again, that's all through legislative programs that have been authorized by Congress. That money is in place and, won't go away. It's a discretionary money that is, kind of the less certain, or, there's some, the uncertainty is, what we're concerned. Whether the state would, again, this becomes a difficult question. It's like, okay, if the federal dollars dry up, is the state gonna just authorize it? Don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I
like.
didn't say it would, I just said that soon there would be discussion.
Well,
Just because there's state funding a program, it, like, I guess where I sit, that doesn't mean that it's ultimately safe.
Right.
Because
Well,
if corresponding federal dollars and some other program dry up, appropriately so, the state may shift dollars.
Now, and again, at the federal level, again, we pay gas taxes, gas tax, and that's what is the primary source that funds, the federal aid transportation programs. That money again is legislatively enacted and appropriated. So if that can't just arbitrarily be shifted and so again, if the feds stop funding, the surface transportation program, will give us back our federal tax dollars we send down there, because then we'll program that money and do what we want. And again, that's why there's just this uncertainty right now, but most of the dollars are flowing and will continue in most of the programs. It's really the discretionary ones that are the real, where we don't know what's going on. But over the next, year or so, if you have federal aid project, that's gonna be fun, that's gonna be built. Any other projects we have on the transportation improvement program, that money has been programmed and will flow, because those programs aren't going away.
Any questions or comments from, regarding United Cleaning Work Program?
I'll just make one more comment. This is where we can program in some of the studies that we want to do. So I know we're going to be looking at main streets that are state roads, which are pretty much every one of them, and kind of looking at what can be done with that and what the implications are, what are the opportunities. So that would be something we'll be exploring over the next 2 years during this cycle.
Thanks. Next item, Series 500 reporting forms, Joanne.
Yeah, thank you for your time this morning, Mr. Chair. So just to give you a little refresher, the Series 500 reporting forms were developed by Federal Highway Administration, along with the state DOTs. And it collects data about, state and local highway funding, also motor fuel distribution, licensed drivers, registered, et cetera, et cetera. So, what this form is actually being, what a memo was sent from the state of Connecticut Finance Department to your finance departments in the towns. And just a little quick reminder, if you could work with your finance departments to say, hey, could you please, move this along? We need to report on local and, state and, federal funding that we receive, that the town actually receives. So just FYI, I can answer some questions after the meeting. Or not.
Thank you very much for connecting the dots. Once again, I don't know if there's other communities in it. The city of Bristol received that form through the mayor's office, got forwarded to our comptroller's office. The form said, gee, just like last year, honestly, I don't believe the city of Bristol has ever filled out that form, before. I opened it up and it talked about like state roads.
Yeah.
And it had no, like city roads, even on the attachment. Honestly, it was on my list to call, the original from the DOT, like, because we're completely confused to fill it out. And we don't acknowledge that we ever filled it out. And I've been in Bristol for a while now, 28 years.
Yeah, and
There's no way we
it
would.
was a surprise to me too.
I mean, one of the purposes behind this form, and I don't know if it's changed, but it used to be what they did, was just a sampling. They would, in other words, not every town got it. It was like they, selected once they wanted to collect data on. Part of what USDOT uses this information for is actually setting, well, supposedly what they do is they look at it for setting what the need is for transportation funding. So that's sort of the intended purpose. They wanted to see how much money is actually being spent and, you know, whether it's enough and things like that. But it had been always done as a sampling. I don't know if you remember HPMS, Highway Performance Management System. This was the similar type of form that they would do under HPMS.
So I'm not saying you have to give the people that are here, municipalities are represented as meeting special treatment, but
You do.
if Bristol forward you our form, I give you a call.
You get a gold star.
Any questions or comments? Have other communities, have the other communities seen?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so, you know, check in with your finance department. You might help,
You got-
you might help each other.
You got 28 years, I got 3.
In all fairness, I'd be surprised if any finance office, comptroller's office would fill it out without contacting
I
public
know,
works.
that's the correct, how they do, sometimes the way they go about sending out forms. Sort of invites a little, non-response.
Do you get all the towns in the NVCOG? Or do you have the capability of getting them?
The actual,
The 500 forms?
my understanding is it went to the town.
Yeah, no, we received.
The towns
It
themselves.
didn't come to
not
us,
every town.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the author on the form?
Once,
The state-
honestly,
state
before,
DOT,
after the meeting, I can even pull it up on my phone.
The state finance department.
After the meeting, if you have, you know, I can tell you what Crystal received. Any other questions or comments? Thanks for that information. Next item, new mix, Kevin?
Yeah, so a quick topic on new mix. The planned environmental linkages studies are wrapping up. So the new mix team is currently having a couple public meetings, going over the studies to meet with the general public, going over the project. There has been a couple so far. There's one more, which is tonight at 5:30 to 7:30 at Maloney Elementary School, 223 South Elm Street in Waterbury. If you're able to attend the meeting, I would really suggest you go. This is not the new mix project isn't something that's just impacting the city of Waterbury directly, but all of the surrounding towns nearby. So if you're able to attend the meeting, and of course, if you have any questions about the new mix project in general, you can ask us or you can check the new mix website as well.
For people that have interest that can't make the meeting, can NVCOG forward us the presentation afterwards?
We should be able to, yeah, and if we can try to get hold of it.
Yeah, I guess speaking for all committee members, if you could obtain it and forward it to all committee members, that would be helpful.
Yeah, because they, Kevin, they also did a virtual meeting. Is that one already taking place? Is that scheduled?
I think that one happened.
Yes.
Because the other two meetings have happened already, and I think one of them was
It was last year.
Okay, so we'll get you the presentation from the virtual meeting.
No, that would be good.
Yeah, because we've served on the TAC, you know, for the project since it started. You know, so we got good contacts with firms that are doing it, so we'll provide any that information. So you know, make a note of that, Kevin. We'll get the presentation and forward it to everybody. You know.
Yeah, they had a meeting in Waterville last month. Kevin was in.
Yeah.
We should have that.
Any questions or comments? If not, community connectivity grant, Nicole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Nicole Sullivan, for those of you I haven't met yet. This is just a reminder that the DOT has opened its solicitation for the Community Connectivity Grant Program. Applications from the municipalities are due to the DOT by Wednesday, May 21st. NVCOG staff are available to assist with project concept development or to provide letters of support. The communication was sent from NVCOG to the CEOs and TTAC on February 25th with more detailed information about the program. But we can read on that as well after the meeting. This program provides state funds for municipal construction activities between $100,000 and $800,000. And it focuses on safety and accessibility for pedestrians, like bicyclists and transit users. Additionally, to receive funding through this fiscal year 2025 solicitation, municipalities must have reached approval for final design with any projects from prior years.
And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or follow up with DOT.
So the way you just worded it, I guess is different than what I understood. So we weren't gonna apply for one in Bristol because it was our understanding that you can only have two active community connectivity projects. We have one under construction and we have one that we just, you know, we're just completing the design and we'll be forwarded back to the DOT within a week. That will give us two. And we were on the understanding we can only have two active projects at a time.
And I'm not sure, it could be just this solicitation that maybe they've narrowed it down that projects must have reached final design by the deadline of May that I noted. And then all awards are expected to be completed within 3 years of the agreement. But I can confirm that once more, but I do have that, like you said, Bristol does have one open project that they haven't received final design yet, and it's the Rams location, yeah.
And then just, you know, again, just to say this and potentially benefit the group, you know, we learn stuff every day. I guess it was a surprise to me, and wrongly, that once that scope is set on community connectivity, you really can't change it easily or expand it. So what we found is we had a couple, the ones we have done, we had an estimate, quite frankly, based on the DOT, you know, construction, you know, costs. Which defined the scope, but then we go out to, and, you know, we find that honestly, we get sidewalks built for dramatically lower than what the DOT, you know, cost estimator indicated. So we will not spend a full grant award, not even close. And then going back to increasing scope seems very problematic, you know? So like literally, I think, you know, one of them was like real money. We had 500,000, we had a cost estimate that, you know, that's what it came to based on a DOT, you know, cost estimator, but, you know, our project only cost like 300,000. We're gonna give, you know, we're not gonna use like 200,000 of the grant.
And I thought it was only one project at a time. It could be up to two.
I thought it was just.
Yeah, and again, I think the key is the progress you've made on any project that you've been awarded for, you know, previously. Because they don't want to keep awarding a municipality money if they haven't even started the project. So, yeah, I don't know if there was ever, I don't deal with the community connectivity too much, so I'm not sure about that two-project limit. But I know but if you completed or in construction of one, like, you know, Ray's just saying, and their design for their second is almost done, you can apply for the next one, you know, because it's, you know, you're going to submit the final design plan before that deadline, or you've made reasonably further progress on it, so that's not gonna make it.
And the key I learned on this is getting the town money, but you gotta fund the design. So if they give me a few designs, at least I could have them in the queue to have them approved to go out.
Yeah, and so we've always suggested to the department that they should run connectivity like they do lots of. Because then there is more flexibility with your costs, that you're not locked into your grant amount. And two, there's flexibility in changing the scope if you find something during the design that you should be doing that you hadn't thought about previously, or, you know, but again, lots of this, you know, so much more flexible, and it's run through the region where community connectivity and state line, and, you know, we don't have much impact on it, but.
And the way they ran it the last time is they opened it up, they got their list, they had the cut line. And then the following year, they didn't accept any more projects. They just went off the current list,
Yeah.
so it seems like every 2-year cycle that they open it up.
And it depends on, since the money is through the legislation, sometimes this legislature hasn't approved connectivity fund every year.
Yeah.
recently, I think they've been very good about, allocating funds. And then, this year it's more money they appropriated than in previous years.
That I'm not sure if it's more, but it is between 100,000 and 800,000.
No, the total for the state, because I thought in previous years it was like limited to 5 million. I thought this year they were going like to 10 or something. So again, it's variable in terms of how often they go out for solicitation or like you said, working off of the previous year's list, if they get more money, so. Again, the only advice that we would provide is for communities that have had an award, get your project done. And two, if you have a project, submit it and see what happens, there's no, if you're interested in doing another project, I put it together and submit it, and if they say, well, no, you get this, or you can just say, look, our design is almost done, they might go ahead, so no harm in submitting it.
Because like what you're saying is if you have one in construction, a different one that's reached final design, you could in
Yeah,
theory go for a third.
For a third, if they have it done by May.
Yes, by May 21st.
Or if it looks like you're gonna, June 1st, they're not gonna, they'll say, okay, that's close enough, probably. And a little bit, it's gonna be dependent on demand, if the program is, really overextended, they'll be a little bit, more strict on, what you're doing. But if they are sort of under program, they'll be more likely to accept projects.
Any other questions or comments? If not, section 5310 grant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanna Rogalski again. So there were 7 applications that we were copied on from the NVCOG communities, 5 traditional capital and 2 operating. The towns that sent applications, Southbury, Watertown, Naugatuck, and I believe, no, I'm sorry, those were the 3 as far as senior centers go. And then there were also NET, Kennedy Collective, Bristol Arc, and Elam Park, and I believe they're in Cheshire. My colleague, Io, was very helpful in helping with, especially with Watertown, with their application. So the next step is we're going to be in conjunction with the Connecticut DOT, looking at those applications and giving recommendations to the Connecticut DOT, and the Connecticut DOT makes the final choices on who gets funding and who gets it. But yep, that's all. The applications were done April 1st, so we're just waiting to hear from Connecticut DOT.
Any questions or comments? If not, pedestrian data collection priorities.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Part of our responsibilities, as Mark said earlier, is collecting data for our municipalities. We have people and equipment that we go to take pedestrian counts and as well as traffic counts. We usually do that over the course of the spring and the summer. In our database, we have about 212 location intersections across various streets in our municipalities that we collect data. But there's no way we're gonna be able to collect data in all of those locations. So we require your assistance to let us know what your priorities are. You may have, for example, you're interested in applying for a grant, talking about safe streets, and you need information about pedestrian counts on a particular intersection. And these grants have deadlines, or you're looking at providing sidewalks or streetscape or something, and you require data. So we prepared a survey, which we want you to kindly complete. The link is in the memo packet that was sent to you. It also has a QR code, which will tell us about that intersection. Are there safety concerns out there? What's the location? Are you applying for a grant? Does it have a deadline? So this will help us to also allocate our manpower resources effectively to help you collect data to assist you in your work. So with that, I would like to take any questions or comments, sir.
So if we have an intersection that we're interested in the count, we can contact NVCOG for
You
assistance.
just fill the form,
Yeah.
and we'll get it and we'll prioritize it. I would appreciate it if we could get maybe by April 19th, another two weeks, so that we can plan over the spring and the summer and get those counts up.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, that's a good service.
Welcome, sir.
Active transportation plan, Mark?
Okay, thank you. Just a quick update. As you all know, we've had this on the agenda. We're working on a new active transportation plan. The pedestrian and bicycle facility assessments. I'm working closely with Kate. Kate and I are doing it together. And it had been delayed because of staff changes and everything, but we're trying to, really accelerate the development of it. So we're working pretty diligently on it. We have a couple of sections already completed, looking at division. As I mentioned, complete streets policy is something that we're including in the plan. And we're looking at existing conditions, evaluating sort of the pedestrian amenities, facilities in each of the downtowns of the region. We're looking at bicycle facilities that are currently in place, which are very few. And, we did have an online survey that we closed back in November. Kate's going through that data now to, clean out any kinds of comments, suggestions, critical areas, issues. So that's going to be helping to put in the plan. One of the key things you're going to look at is developing a regional suggested bicycle route system throughout the region. And right now, we're looking at a lot of the state roads, how we can do an interconnected thing. It's a very long list of roads that we're going to be vetting to see whether some of these make sense or not. You can put a road on there, and then when you go out there and say, "Oh hell, nobody's going to want to ride a bike on this thing," or it's unsafe. So, but it's a long list that we're going to be vetting through the project advisory committee. Next meeting for the bike committee is
A week from today.
week from today. So we're going to be presenting some of this information at that in April. Just to keep you updated. But we are getting close to looking at what's needed in the two focus areas, pedestrian activity in downtowns, for commercial areas. I use the term downtown very loosely. There are some areas of towns that have, commercial areas that aren't technically downtown, but that we're going to be looking at those areas as well. And then, like I said, the bike networks. Anybody has any questions? No.
Yeah, any questions, comments? If not, Mark, thanks for the update. A legislative update, Drew?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're past the joint favorable deadline for most of the committees, including the Transportation Committee at the state legislature. So things are really starting to kind of flesh themselves out a little more clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run very quickly through these 8 bills with a sentence about each, and then open it up with for questions and conversation through you, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Yes.
So the first one, House Bill 5403. An act prohibiting state agencies and municipalities from purchasing or operating certain unmanned aircraft systems. Fairly self-explanatory. All you need to know at this point is do not, if you're in the process of considering purchasing, a drone for any of your department, do not purchase one that is manufactured in China or Russia, because it may then be grounded in perpetuity moving forward if you do happen to do that. HB 6679, an act concerning the local bridge program. This is good news. This would up the grant percentage from 50% to 75% and add some more overall funding to the program on the state level. HB 6960, an act establishing a public infrastructure grant program for certain municipalities. This would establish a grant program administered by OPM for municipal public infrastructure projects related to affordable housing. So this could add revenue to your municipalities and help remove barriers to affordable housing construction. HB 7058, an act concerning automated traffic enforcement safety devices, would expand the use of speed cameras on state highways and provide that funds received by municipalities from fines would have to be used for transportation improvements and or be put back into the equipment that you have. The next one is HB 7060, an act concerning transportation worker safety. This is a direct response to the unfortunate and tragic accidents that took the lives of both a state trooper and state DOT worker last year. This would increase the penalties for distracted driving and put into place other safety measures like 6-inch wide edge lines on limited access highways. HB 7061, this was a big one. So in line with what the state is trying to do around transit-oriented development, it would remove minimum parking requirements altogether. So we'll be working on that through our planning staff in all three sectors here. But we're keeping a close eye on that. It's likely to kind of change from how it currently exists and is crafted. But it definitely looks like it has some legs, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting in the ear of some of our legislators with potential concerns with that. SB, so Senate Bill 1375, an act concerning highway pedestrian and cyclist safety, kind of in line with what Mark was just talking about. Much like HB 7060, this multi-pronged bill will address safety concerns, banning open alcoholic beverages in vehicles, requiring reflective paint on highways, and requiring driver retraining after a first offense of reckless driving, among many other measures. And then last but not least, Senate Bill 1377, which is an act implementing the recommendations of the DOT. This bill would establish a pilot program for testing autonomous vehicles, which are currently not allowed in the state. It would identify and mark dangerous, quote unquote, dangerous crosswalks, would increase the permitted parking distance from crosswalks, intersections, and stop signs. I think each one by an additional 5 feet. And provide some other changes to the way federal transportation dollars are handled. Mark, Kevin, Rich, and or any of our other very smart transportation team members will have to do some reading to determine the impacts of this. So for now, I simply wanted to flag it and share it with you, but our staff will take a little bit of a deeper dive into that specific one. And that's it.
It is the local bridge program. What are the summary of the proposed changes again?
So the funding will go from 50%, the state usually covers 50%, to now 75. So the municipality will only be responsible for 25. And they're gonna also put supposedly a lot more money into that program. But again, we'll see how the dollars all shake out at the end here. But it does look like they are that 75 seems to have support, so.
The minimum parking thing, is that for everybody everywhere?
Everybody everywhere. It literally is all encompassing altogether. So I don't know if they're gonna add an opt-in or opt-out. That's probably, this is all opinion. I think that they may do that rather than just mandate. But the goal is affordable housing, affordable housing. And if there's barriers to you not having on-site parking as a developer, and they'll say, okay, well, we don't need to do that anymore because we're 30 yards from a train station. Most of our residents, our prospective residents, are going to be taking the train to and from work, so we don't need any parking. So there's a lot of conversation about on-site, off-street. I think some of those words are going to change throughout, but our staff is going to take a close eye on it. That's actually Nicole's problem. She's our TOD master. So she'll be taking a closer look at that, but I think we're a little worried that could be a little bit of a free for all for developers if you don't have any ability to tell them, you want to put 300 apartments and you have 7 parking spaces. I think we all know that could be somewhat problematic. Doesn't mean you need the standard now, which is, I want to say, 1 for a studio, maybe 2, and Mark, maybe you know the numbers, 2 for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, whatever the case. Those numbers are likely to change here, in terms of the required parking. So
I think that's got legs.
Yeah, I do. I really do. It came from the chair of P&D, and it's kind of been circulating through different, conversations at the state. So I think the state's really trying to put their money where their mouth is as it relates to encouraging this kind of development, particularly in transit-oriented districts, so.
So from my perspective, in Bristol, a city planner, is under Public Works. Not to give you a hard time, that's a strange choice of words, that putting their money where their mouth is, because from my perspective, I do believe Bristol knows, like all communities, knows what's best, for them. And to me, having a state requirement that they start talking about, parking, is an issue. Not to, take up everybody's time, but I can tell you that, and to me, they're kind of connected. We also have a parking ban, in Bristol, and I can tell you that, like, parking matters, because my phone rings off the wall, and to a certain extent, I'm sheltered from the calls. But I personally have probably had, 12 calls, that got to me. We get much more calls. Those are the ones that were persistent and get through. And, when we institute our parking ban, it is a legit, concern, for residents. And, they honestly, it even gets into issues, not just one, two, like all of them. I live in downtown or live in such an area. My landlord has one parking, what do I do when my girlfriend comes over? What do I do with my boyfriend? And those are the issues that I, deal with. Well, where they're gonna stay, yeah.
And I don't disagree with you, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, and when I say put your money where your
Really,
mouth is,
yeah.
they have to put actual policy in place.
This conversation. So. But, so, I guess it is personal for people, it's, because when we institute our parking ban, our phone rings off the wall. Because, all fairness, we do enforce it, and, so people have to get off the roads and find, and our existing housing stock, even in, fairly big complexes, it's an issue, yeah.
Good point, very good point about parking ban.
So it's good, except for the winter.
Any questions or, comments? If not, moving on, thanks for the update. Thank you. SEDS annual report.
That's.
Yeah.
We refer to it as SEDS, not SED. It's one of those acronyms.
So just real quick, we are going to be taking over the comprehensive economic development strategy for, on behalf of the region. Currently, this is handled by SEDC, the Shell and Economic Development Corporation, as it has been for many years. We are working with EDA right now, on the federal side, or the office out of Philadelphia, to get ourselves in line for taking over this process, which is kind of runs on a 5-year cycle, where you have to have a 5-year plan and then annual updates every year. So Mark and I are kind of heading up this effort, and we're in the stages now of kind of building out what will be an advisory committee for this process that will mostly be made up of economic development staff from your respective municipalities, but also partners like chambers, workforce boards, and other folks from throughout the region. But the goal for this, and why it's relevant to this group, is we're going to be reaching out to you for kind of a comprehensive project list in order to do our annual update. We're actually doing the annual update for SEDC this year as kind of a vendor. But that's going to be due for July 1. So we'll be reaching out to you folks just for anything and everything, anything and everything that constitutes a completed project or a project in process. So just look out for that email, probably from me with copy to Mark, and don't hesitate to include everything, and then we'll determine if it's eligible to put into that report. But
Yeah, and Drew said July 1st, but really we need information because we have to submit the progress report to the SEDC or the said steering committee in May, and then have to endorse it in June. So we're gonna be doing that, this month, and now pulling it together for, if we need to have it done by mid-May.
Yeah, exactly. So we look forward to that. We look forward to your anticipated cooperation on that, but it's all stuff that, especially this group, you guys know the things that are happening in your town. So rather than us have to go figure that out on our own, we're gonna rely on you to really provide that. So.
What kind of project list is it?
Any kind. The SEDS is an economic strategy, and it has 8 goals in there. And, to help economic development throughout the region. What constitutes a project that benefits economic development? Well, almost anything in a way. So, it's not just, a new, office building or something like that. But what about the infrastructure that would support that? So that's why we're gonna, take claim that transportation improvements is an economic development, project. You building, a new road or upgrading a new road will help. Let's say Route 34 in Derby is maybe a good example. That is, roadway project, improves traffic flow, but it also opens up, vacant land to be more attractive to a developer because now you have better access and, better way of getting in and out. So that, so almost any kind of project, like Drew said, if you submit or give us any project, we'll decide whether it makes sense or fits in with the goals of the sets.
Any questions or comments? If not, environmental planning, regional waste authority study update, Christine?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So I think most of you already know that we've received a grant from Connecticut Deep regarding a regional waste authority study. Desiree, if you could give us one more click here. Okay, I didn't. There we go. That's where we are, existing conditions phase. So that's what I wanted to say is that our consultant, Tetra Tech, as many of you may know, be very familiar with because you filled out the surveys. We're currently on our existing conditions phase and Tetra Tech is collecting that information. I think we have 16 in so far, which is phenomenal. I know they were not short to fill out, but I really thank you for doing them because it's very important to establish for our study going forward. We anticipate that Tetra Tech is going to deliver their completed study with recommendations in September of this year. And I'm looking forward to returning to these TTAC meetings to continue giving updates. If anyone has, I don't want to rehash all of it, but if anyone has questions about Regional Waste Authority, what the study is, what its goals are, I'm happy to talk about that. Just wanted to give a quick update today.
Okay. Thanks. Any questions, comments? Thanks for the update.
Sure.
Next round of sustainable material management grants, Christine?
Yeah, so this is just a heads up that Connecticut Deep has announced that there will be another sustainable materials management grant round released soon. However, nothing has been published at this time. So we wanted to encourage municipalities to start thinking about what projects might look like. We imagine that it will be competitive like past years. If they're structured like last round, we can expect that Deep will be looking for residential waste reduction pilots that incorporate organics diversion and unit-based pricing, also known as pay-as-you-throw. These could be either transfer station-based or curbside pickup. They could be full city or part of your community. And I'll note that in 2022, 5 of our municipalities were offered SMM grants, ranging from 100,000 to nearly $500,000. Again, we don't know what changes or tweaks Deep might make, but I wanted to encourage folks to start thinking about it now. We're happy to talk with you about any projects you're thinking of. And of course, as soon as a request for applications is released, we'll make everyone aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also hazardous waste.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a reminder that the next household hazardous waste event is on Saturday, April 12th at the Naugatuck transfer station from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Future events include July 26th at John Trumbull Primary School in Oakville / Watertown. And then September 27th at the Beacon Falls Recreation Complex. Next slide. And then this slide is just to highlight last year's success. So last year, we serviced 2,199 carloads, with Woodbury being the highest participation event at 858 carloads. So that's hazardous waste we were able to divert from the waste stream environment. And then the right picture is just some key materials, hazardous materials that we were able to divert.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one more environmental planning update or or item that came up after we sent the agenda out last week. DEP has released a draft MS4 permit. Tom's reviewing it right now. He sent out some information to all of you and to your CEOs last week. Deep is looking for comments, I believe by the 21st of this month. So in a few weeks. We're also putting together regional comments as well. So I encourage you all to look at the draft permit. There are some substantial changes. I'm not certain it's going to make it a whole lot easier for you all to comply, but you know, we would really like to hear what red flags you all see with compliance going forward with the new permit, so that we can include those in our comments as well. So so please do take a look and let us know if you guys have any comments or questions or concerns.
Once again, I say this to, to provide information, to the group. Bristol was notified of, we were through EPA, that they, in effect, like a request for information on our MS4 program. And it was actually the whole Clean Water Act, because it was a request. I don't know if the request implies that, had a choice from EPA, that they, we're pretty hardcore, but we don't like getting letters from EPA. So we got a letter from EPA doing like a request for information to do an audit on the Clean Water Act. And there's really two components, because it went to me as Public Works Director overseeing stormwater MS4, and it also went, because we have a separate sewer water department, went to them. So it was actually co-signed, co-certified. So we've been putting together information, some of it, there's even compiling, what we had. We submitted some of the information a couple of weeks ago. Our next deadline is, on next week. But so we're submitting, they're performing an audit of our MS4 program, I guess at the same time. And it was strange to me because it was from EPA auditing us on a state program being Connecticut Deep's MS4 program. And Connecticut Deep is looking at changing their regulations. I mean, in all fairness, EPA didn't know that when they contacted them, but they're gonna audit us on what the current regulations are now. Probably, tell us we have to comply, but comply with regulations that are changing.
Yeah, so the state has been given the authority by EPA to enforce the Clean Water Act. So that's what the MS4 permit is.
Yeah.
And there's a minimum threshold that DEP has to make, but it can be more stringent than the federal permit or the federal requirements. And I know, the permit that's been in effect now, I don't think DEP has done a lot of enforcement. I know one of our towns has gotten an enforcement action.
What town is that?
I don't know if I should say, but Beacon Falls. And they've revised, they've gone and revised everything and they are now compliant. But it was a lot of work getting that done. So, we've heard from DEP that they intend to do a better job enforcing the new permit. We've also heard from some nonprofits in the state that are suing over Clean Water Act violations. And they've been suing, communities throughout the state for even ones that are, technically compliant with DEEP or have not received enforcement actions from DEEP, going after them because they're not fully complying with the EPA's Clean Water Act. So I foresee that, there's going to be a lot of attention given to this next permit and with compliance going forward. So, we would really like to hear from you all, what are the hardest parts? What are the things that are going to give you the biggest problem to enact, and, try to get ahead of some of it with these comments, and, try to push back a little bit on the more onerous parts of the permit.
And I'll say that, like, when I'm reviewing this new permit, they really took some time to be detailed and kind of user friendly. So I think that's another hint that they're gonna be a little more strict this time around. because they're trying to give more explanation into each requirement.
I guess offline, if I can speak to both of you, maybe have the.
Sure.
Any questions or comments? We won't have you say the name again, but the other community that got did they get fined or did they just they
They did not get fined now, but you know, it was probably a 1.5 year process to get them up to compliance. And that involved, you know, working with the town on local regulations, which are part of the permit, and you know, making sure that they're doing all the things that they needed to do. You know, I think most towns that have been submitting annual reports have not drawn the attention of DEEP. It's, you know, that community did not submit an annual report. So I think that's what sort of threw the red flag and so, but I think going forward, they're really going to be, you know, looking more in depth at what's in those reports rather than just whether or not you're submitting them.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, a GIS update, department update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to do a new update for the GIS and data department. I am the new GIS program coordinator. My name is Richard Crowley Jr. And then I'd also like to introduce our new GIS analyst, Danny Thomas. Please let us know if you want to meet up with your municipal staff for any data or technical needs. Next update is in December, NVCOG got a grant from the OPM office to assist municipalities with their parcels and CAMA database updates. I just want to let you know that we'll be reaching out to assessors and engineering staff that are responsible for parcel updates to help with this, but the bulk of the work will be done with the GIS and CAMA dissolve. I will skip the state data since I'm the last one holding you up. Pedestrian network, Danny is working on completing our regional pedestrian network, which involves sidewalks, ramps, and crosswalks. Our intention is to create a network for walkability analyses in the future. It's part of the active transportation plan and will also be used in the test pilot ADA program with CTTOT. So if you do have any new sidewalks coming down the line, please let us know so we can incorporate that into our network. And on the map is what Danny has completed so far. Next is demographic data. We have 2 tools on our website. There's an NVCOG demographic explorer, and then on the data download page which is the URL on the bottom for any demographic information you need for grant applications or any reporting that has been coming up in the last year for easy access for you. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Oh, thanks for that update. I believe we've talked to you, right?
Yeah, so that's why I said we'll come out and meet with you, but I sent the email last month as a follow-up to your request.
Any questions, comments? Certainly, I think that, NVCOG does a very good job with providing the resource to, the communities for GIS assistance, and I want to appreciate it.
Thank you.
If not, I guess the next item is adjournment. Any items to come before the committee? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Thanks for your time.
Thank you all.